wants to say hi.
Hi.
All right, how's everybody doing? All right, I'm learning how all this works. Wow, Elvis is a little slightly taller than me. All right. Okay. So good to see all of you. I don't know, I recently moved here. My name's Nadeem Sean Rahman. So I moved around mid-November to here in Colorado from Arizona. So I know Katarina and Mika just came from Arizona. It was pretty cold there, right? 65s, 60, around there. It was, and it's cold front there. So moving from, the Arizona, well, this place is really sunny. That's what I found out. But I was about to say Arizona's sunny, but this place is way more sunny. But moving from Arizona to here in mid-November, and my family came about 2 weeks ago to come to live with me here. So I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about my story. Did you get lost? Chelsea will take you. All right. So in Arizona, my kids are always running around during the sermon, so I don't know. Here, at least you guys have good Sunday school and everything like that, so it's a little bit different for them. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about, who I am, where I grew up. I was the pastor. I'm not going to explain too much in my testimony because it goes up to my blessing, but I was the pastor for Arizona. My wife and I were the pastors in Arizona for 4 years, from 2021 to 2025. My contract ended December 31st, 2025, so my wife's still there. She has to take care of some stuff. She's doing a Sangwa ceremony, helping out there. So, the pastor, you can move around, but the pastor's still in you, right? So, no matter what you do. So, yeah, it's really nice, and I'm so grateful that you guys were very welcoming towards our family. I know we went to Colorado Family Camp. I really wanted to get out of Arizona, and so my wife's like, hey, let's just try this family camp out. And we did, and that sold me, and I started applying to jobs, and I got a job like that. So it was great. And I know we had a great message from tithing, right? And that was a really, really great message. I also have recently we just put our house for rent, and then as soon as I pressed the tithe button, like you guys have Zelle, so as soon as I sent the Zelle, boom, like 20 minutes later, some renters came to our house. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's tithing works. So don't want to diminish that. So yeah, growing up, definitely my life was uncertain in a lot of ways, but my story really doesn't start with me, right? Like everybody else, it starts with, the people who came before us. For me, it was my parents. So my parents were both born in Bangladesh. It's a little country next to India. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's mostly Muslim. My mom was in the middle class. They had a caste system. They still kind of have a caste system there. But my mom was in the middle class, and my dad's family was in the upper class. And at that time, in the 80s, the best way to get an education and job security was through marriage, right? And so my mom being the oldest of 7 siblings, and the family couldn't provide education for everybody, right? So my mom was arranged with my dad. That's kind of typically how it went. So my dad's family could support my mom's family and all that stuff. And by the way, my mom was only 15 years old, and my dad was about 34. And so there was definitely an age gap there, right? And fortunately, my dad was also pretty tired of the system and the culture Bangladesh had. And so he came here to America. He was able to come to America and bring my mom with him. So they landed in New Mexico, and I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so they didn't stay there for too long. When I was about 2 years old, my family moved to Arizona. And so my mom was about 17 years old when she had me. So if you guys can imagine. But yeah, so as you can imagine with the age gap, my parents didn't really have a healthy relationship, right? And so my dad had a lot of stored up anger inside him, and he became very abusive towards my mom. And so when her first few siblings was able to get an education, and her dad, my grandpa, was able to get a stable job, my mom made the decision to divorce my dad, leave the marriage. And so it wasn't possible until she came to America, though, right? And so she's really, really thankful for that. And at the same time, she was trying to build a life for herself. She worked full time, went back to school, got her GED, went to community college, and eventually graduated from Arizona State with electrical engineering degree. And so I'm definitely proud of her. She eventually became a consultant to NASA and helping design for equipment, for shuttles, and all that stuff. So she has lots and lots of knowledge. And so, but the reality was that she was working and studying so much, right? I spent a lot of time on my own. There were many moments I had to grow up early. I learned how to be independent, how to take care of myself, and how to not ask for too much. I didn't always know what to do, but I kept moving forward because that's what felt necessary. In the divine principle, we talk about how the fall just didn't break our relationship with God, right? It disrupted our family, security, guidance. Looking back, I didn't have the language for it, but I was living in that reality. I wasn't broken. I was growing up in a world that couldn't always protect or guide me. I didn't know what to do, but I kept moving forward. When I was about 5 years old, I met a friend named Sana Berg. He was in my kindergarten class. He invited me to his birthday party, and he was a second-generation member. And his parents were Jane and Staffenberg, and they became very important figures in my life. And Sana would invite me to sleep over Saturday nights. And guess what we did Sunday mornings? Go to church, right? And so that's how I got introduced to the community at a very young age. And so in Arizona. At first, I didn't really understand the theology. I just wanted to hang out with my friends, right? Like, why would you? Anyways, yeah. When I was growing up, I literally thought the divine principle started with chapter 2. I didn't know there was a whole chapter before that. Now we're much more educated, much more disciplined. But I really thought it just started with chapter 2. I was like, okay, it's an interesting book. But, I wasn't really searching for God. What caught my attention was the families, right? They weren't perfect. Parents and kids didn't always agree, but they stayed together. There was consistency. There was presence. Divine principle teaches us also that restoration doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through relationships. And before I understood God intellectually, I experienced something emotional and relational. I felt less alone. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I definitely felt safer there. So as my mom continued building her career, she met my stepdad, who's from El Salvador and comes from a Catholic background. So, when they got married, I was attending Islamic school and then also Sunday Catholic school. And then when I was with my friends, I also go to Unification Church. So I was very diverse in many different cultures and religions and stuff like that. And so, but when they decided to get married, no imam, which is the Muslim representative, no imam would marry a Catholic, and no priest would marry an imam. So what happened? The Unification Church was a solution, right? So they were able to marry my mom and my stepdad, Juan. And so, ironically enough, Lucia Anderson officiated their wedding, whose song was today. So it's kind of full circle. So, and Romina's there right now with doing the ceremony and all that stuff. So in the divine principle, we learn that God often works through situations that don't look ideal. And at that time, it just felt confusing. Looking back, I can see Heavenly Parent quietly keeping a thread connected, even when people didn't realize it. So as I grew older, life became more unstable again. In junior high and high school, I moved between homes and schools. Financial stress always, made things harder. I often stayed with one parent during the week and another on the weekends. I didn't know where I fully belonged. And after graduating high school, I got a job and a car really quickly, within a month and a half. And one early morning, around 5 a.m., I just left. I just left home, Before that, I was just this obedient child to my parents, right? This especially if you grew up in a maybe Asian household. You were just like this obedient child. But I just left one day, and during the summer vacation, I just left home at 5 a.m. And I was driving around, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go, but I know one family that's up at 5 a.m., and it was the Burks family, because they were just doing hood decay all morning, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go there. And so they called my parents, and since I was already 18, I had a choice to make. I knew I couldn't go back home. Something deep inside me told me not to go back. And that decision hurt my relationship with my mom for a long, long time. The divine principle talks about human responsibility, not because we always know the right answer, but because we still have to choose. I didn't know what my future would look like. I just knew that the next step I had to take. And even then, I wasn't completely alone. So during college, I went to different church workshops. I tried to join different Jewish groups, Islamic groups, Christian groups, just trying to figure out myself, right? But I kept coming back to this community somehow, some way, right? And so I kept asking questions, trying to poke holes through the divine principle, many, many different ways, different times, and spending a lot of times with blessed families. And that was the real anchor. If I had to pick my spiritual parent, it wasn't like one family or the other. It was the Arizona community together. They really, really grew me and taught me and nourished me. And I'm so grateful for them. And there was a lot of times when the kids and the parents were just arguing, right? And I was just there. But it wasn't the fact that they didn't agree in theology, that they were just still, at the end of the day, love was still there. And that's what I admired most. I didn't really care if the child follows the path of the parents or not, right? But love was the biggest thing that was there. And that's what I really, really loved about being part of this community. And so it wasn't easy fitting in, as a random kid that just came from nowhere. Back then, a lot of communities didn't have an effort to witness and bring people to this community, right? So I was kind of treated like this black sheep in the youth gatherings and events, and like, oh, who's your parents? And that's the common question, right? Of like trying to figure out like where your lineage comes from. So Andrew knows. So yeah, so it was kind of awkward a lot. But eventually in workshops, I had the privilege to go to New York a few times, and I really understood family being the cornerstone to God's heart. And I just wanted to go to different workshops. I didn't even notice, and before I knew it, I accidentally attended a matching workshop for first gens. And so at 19, I applied for the matching. And so at 22, after graduating college, I was matched with my wife, Romina, who is from Albania, which is a small country next to Greece. So our process was fast. We started communicating in October 2013, and we were blessed in February 12th, 2014, so in a few months. And the blessing was even covered by ABC Nightline News. And so it wasn't portrayed very positively if you see the whole thing, but what mattered to us was the commitment we were making and not how it looked to the world. And they totally cut out our interview, partly because one of the questions I was asked is, how do you know if this is the right partner if you haven't slept together before? And Romina, if you don't know my wife, she can be fiery sometimes. And Romina had some harsh words to say to the camera when that question, but it was cut nonetheless. But it was nice that the video, which I'll show you, the video captured our first physical interaction. Before that, we just Skyped and Zoomed and all that stuff. So the divine principle teaches us that faith often comes before clarity, Sometimes we want to have everything figured out, but sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Faith really, really comes before clarity. And so commitment doesn't wait for perfect understanding, it creates it. So I just want to show you a clip. Hopefully it works. Do I press the...
Would you let your parents pick your spouse? How about your religious leader? For members of one controversial movement, marriage is part of their Messiah's grand vision. Dutiful couples pair off thousands at a time, and a bride shares her most intimate day with 2,000 other brides, while the all-night scramble for hair and makeup is just the beginning of the challenges ahead. Two 2,000 couples
I
arriving
edited
at a
a lot,
stadium
so.
outside Seoul, South Korea for a mass wedding. Some have known each other for just months. How does it feel?
Excited, happy.
Others for only a few days.
She literally forgot her husband's name.
These are young members of the unification movement, sometimes derisively referred to as the Moonies, after their founder, Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Unlike Glenn and Jubilee, who've had time to get to know each other, Romina, who's from Albania, has never met her fiancé before, even though she'll be marrying him in less than a week.
In our movement, we really think and feel deeply that a marriage is not just for my sake and for my personal attraction, but it's something bigger, something that can bring the world together if we really want to commit ourselves. How do you feel? Nervous. I am nervous. I'm so much nervous.
This is our first hug interaction.
Bye. Thank you.
Sorry, this is weird.
My heart's throbbing right now. I'm kind of nervous. So yeah, I'm just excited meeting my spouse for the first time for eternity. She's a lot more beautiful in person, but I'm excited.
These young couples continue to embrace the church's teachings on purity, but at last, the moment these thousands of brides and grooms have been waiting for.
이상 가정을 이룰 것을 약속하느냐?
네!
성립되었음을 선포합니다.
함께 축하를 해주시기 바랍니다.
4,000 people, some virtual strangers, are now married couples.
Wonderful. We are very grateful to be with each other.
Definitely felt like our moment, even though we were like in a sea of brides and grooms. Like I felt like it was our moment.
Many of whom will sleep apart for 40 more nights as a final act of faith. But as True Mother would say, they'll have eternity to get to know each other.
So, yeah, anyways, a little video. You can see the whole clip on YouTube. There's not a lot. Obviously, I try to edit it as much as I can, and it's still a little negative, but, you know, be prepared when you watch the whole video. So, that was back in the day. I'm 34 now, so that was 12 years ago. So, yeah, I was very, very young. I didn't know what I was getting into, you know. I was like, all right, let's get matched and blessed and all these different stuff. And so, and that was the beginning, you know. And honestly, it wasn't easy after that. Romina did STF Europe while I stayed in the United States, finishing my master's degree in electrical engineering and business. And when we finally started living together in Arizona at the end of 2015, we struggled just basic husband-wife communication, right? To communicate to different cultures, but we were committed in our faith and in each other. And thankfully, my dad in the background was doing a lot of counseling, and he got the help that he really needed. So by the time Romina came into the picture, he was a massive support for us, for me and her. And so we even lived together, my dad and Romina and I, for quite some time until Romina and I could get on our feet. So he was definitely, it was interesting. I had a lot of resentment built up, right? Because one of my earliest memories when I was 3 was calling the police on my dad because he was abusing my mom. But to see it 180 and to see him really support my wife and to support my daughter was absolutely something I really felt there was so much divine intervention in that. And so, yeah, Romina and I built our finances together. We were extremely frugal. You know, Romina got a great job with the semiconductor company, and I worked in different industries to gain experience. And We definitely lived off one income, or saved or invested in the other. We built a business together, and from the outside, we were the quote-unquote golden couple, right? Everything looked stable, everything. But the truth is, we weren't really spending so much time together on a deep or spiritual level. And there were so many things. And the divine principle teaches us that the external success doesn't automatically restore internal relationships. As our finances increased, our spiritual life became quietly distant. And so, sorry, my pages are stuck. And so there's one part of the story that took me a long time to understand, even with divine principle. Because of the insecurities I carried from childhood into adulthood, my relationship with my mom was very difficult. We loved each other, but there was distance. There was misunderstanding. There were years when we didn't really reach each other. We didn't know how to communicate to each other. And we learned that the fall damaged not only the relationship with our God, but also the most fundamental human relationships, especially between parent and child. And when that bond is strained, it leaves a mark, and that can follow us into adulthood, right? So when I got married, my mom didn't even hear it from me directly. She found out through that same video on television. And it's not the edited video either, but the one that focused on the negative, right? And that hurt her deeply. And honestly, it revealed how broken our communication was still, right? But Heavenly Parent didn't leave me there. Through my marriage to Romina, something began to change. It wasn't easy at first. Loving my mom required patience, humility, and growth I didn't yet have, but Romina helped me mature. She helped me learn how to listen differently, how to respond with more grace, and how to rebuild a relationship instead of avoiding it. Divine principle teaches that restoration often happens through indemnity, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to heal what was broken. And in my case, that healing came slowly through marriage, responsibility, and choosing love, even when it was uncomfortable. My mom always struggled with health issues throughout her life, with type 1 diabetes, the abuse with my dad. She had spinal surgery and got a whole thing replaced. And so, but various conditions. And so at the age of 53, she passed away into the spirit world in 2023. At her deathbed, Romina and I were both there holding her hand as she transitioned. And in that moment, something became very clear to me. Divine principle teaches that restoration is not always fast, but it's real. Sometimes it doesn't come in the way we imagined or in the timing that we hope for. But when we choose love, sincerity, and responsibility, Heavenly Parent allows reconciliation to happen, even if it comes quietly at the very end. By the time my mom passed, she and I had built the relationship we both had longed for. Not perfect, but real and filled with love. And so today, Romina and I have been married for almost 12 years. February will be our 12th year. And so we have two amazing daughters, Ayana, who's 4, and Ailey, who's 2, and we're expecting another child this summer. So, another daughter. So, we have a daughter. I know I didn't go over many things, especially our relationship, trying to figure it out in our 20s, along with the birth and passing of our first son, and my pastorship for Arizona for over 4 years. But looking back, I realized something. There were so many moments when I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how my family situation would turn out. I didn't know what my future would look like, right? I didn't even know if I fully belonged, but I never was truly alone. There were families who opened doors to their homes. There were people who stayed present, and there was Heavenly Parent working quietly through relationships, even when I couldn't see it all the time. The divine principle teaches that God's providence moves quietly, patiently, often through people rather than events. And I didn't see it at that time, but Heavenly Parent was present in every step. And so, thank you. I know this is just part 1 of my testimony. There's always going to be part 2. If I said the whole thing, we would be here for hours, but I just wanted to give you a glimpse of where I grew up. And then maybe if Pastor Mike will allow me, I can talk about the other parts if possible. But yeah, I'm so grateful that we came to Colorado. I felt a calling to come here. So much before I knew what the state was, I felt a calling to come here. So it was quite amazing, and so I'm so grateful for all of you. And you never know who you're going to impact, right? With that smile, with that, at church, just giving them a hug and saying, hey, I haven't seen you all week, because that's all they wanted to hear the whole time. So with that, please join me in prayer. Thank you, Heavenly Parents, for this wonderful day. I'm so grateful to be here in the Colorado Family Church, where I can be with these brothers and sisters and really be entwined with them, Heavenly Parent. I'm so grateful that we're here because of you, Heavenly Parent, and true parents, to guide us and to show us how real family is supposed to be, and a real family loves no matter what. And I'm so grateful that you can guide us with restoration and guide us with so much love, Heavenly Parents. And I know each and every person here has so much heart and heartache, and we just want to comfort and love whoever those needed. And I report and I pray in gratitude to Holy Mother Han, Aju. Thank you.